Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Today we have an incredible, inspiring guest joining us. Sandra Michaca graduated in 2013, and she was the kind of student leader who made SUNY Oswego better just by being there. During her time on campus, she was deeply involved in ALANA, was an active member in her sorority, served on the SA Supreme Court, and a role that is the role that would foreshadow her future career, and maybe in ways that she didn't even realize. Sandra is a founder of the Michaca Law Firm, where she specializes in immigration law, one of the most challenging and consequential areas of legal practice, especially in recent years. Her firm's vision says it all. She's dedicated to guiding clients through what can be an incredibly stressful and emotional process, ensuring that they understand their options every step of the way. Sandra's journey from student leader at Oswego to immigration attorney is a powerful reminder of how our experiences on campus shape who we become and the impact that we can make in the world. Sandra, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for that amazing introduction.
I was just going on and on. But there's just so much. There's so much to talk about. And I at least wanted to get it up front and, and talk about it straight up front and let folks know this is really going to be an interesting conversation. So we usually start the podcast, it's the Oswego Alumni Podcast, with your origin story. So what brought you to Oswego?
So the lake.
The lake.
And I'm sure you hear it all the time.
I do. It's crazy.
Everybody says the lake. I think the lake has done a lot for SUNY Oswego.
They spend so much money on the curriculum and having the best teachers and the buildings and the upgrades, but really, it's the lake.
So my parents, we were touring schools, and I remember coming to Oswego, and I loved being by the water. Maybe it's because I'm from the city and we did have water, but I didn't really have it like there and not as enormous as SUNY Oswego. So I think that it really caught my attention. The campus was nice. And then I like how it was a huge campus as well. So that definitely caught my attention. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you were from the city. You're from the Bronx.
Bronx, yes.
Yeah, Jenny from the Bronx. Were there other people in your area? I remember when I set off for Oswego, there was one other person from Queens in Oswego. Were there other people in the Bronx that were already there?
No, not that I remember.
Yeah, Fordham seems to gather them all, if you're in the Bronx, you can stay at Fordham, right?
Yes. Well, when I was younger, I think I thought that I was going to go to Fordham, but that didn't happen. I ended up going to Oswego.
So when you started, I'm going to guess you came in September.
Yes.
Fooled by the September weather. Your resume here of your life on campus is rich with experiences. Did you jump right in and say, I want to be a part of student association? Was the call for after class activities the kind of thing that like caught you immediately, or did you work your way into that?
So I've always been an active person in school. So yes, I at first I always knew I wanted to go into the law. So I remember the position of the associate justice being open, and I like to challenge myself. So I went for it and I got it. And I think it was someone else on there who told me about it. And so that's how I was able to get in my first year. And I was the youngest. I was told that I was the youngest to join the student association. But it was through a friend, actually. I think she was on it, and then I got in it. Yeah, but I did that for 4 years. So my entire time that I was at SUNY Oswego.
So tell us a little bit about the Supreme Court and what kind of cases come before you.
So what I remember, it was about being a mediator between the student organizations and the student body. So that's what I remember that I did there. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember being like a mediator between the student organizations and the student body.
Did you come to Oswego? Is there a law major, or was there a different major that you had to have if you wanted to be a lawyer?
No, you can go into law school with any major. But back then I didn't know that. Back then it was, oh, you have to do political science, or you have to do public justice, or you have to do English, right? English major. So I did public justice, and then I minored in Spanish, but then it later turned into a major. So I ended up graduating with a double major.
Wow. So you're involved in after school, after classes activities, and you're doing a double major. How did you manage your time?
Go to the library. I had to, I, I, yeah, I mean, when I had to study, I was in the library for hours. And if that meant that I had to be in the library at nighttime, then I was in there at nighttime. I don't know how I did it, but I did.
And that leads the question, what dorm were you in that you feel like you need to be in the library all the time?
Oh, I was in Hart Hall. I was literally across the street.
Was Hart Hall loud and a lot of activity, and that's why you had to sequester yourself?
No, I just like going to the library. I liked uh going to the library. I felt like I concentrated.
So not only were you involved in the Student Supreme Court, you were also involved in ALANA. Tell us a little bit about your experience there.
So when I went to SUNY Oswego, I was in the EOP program. And so I did meet, there was counselors, and then we did meet other students who were also a part of the EOP program. And so they often talked about the Alana. I felt like we were all connected, right? So we all knew each other. We were all connected because we did a program prior to starting. We kind of did like a summer program prior to starting at SUNY Oswego. So we had already met students that were going to be in the fall. So when we started, we already had like friends when we started. And then we met other students who were already there, who also kind of guided us, right? About like activities and different organizations. So that was very good. And then I saw everybody participating. I felt like we were always just participating in different organizations. And so yeah, that's how I got involved in that. Um, and then I also met Maggie. Maggie was always, everybody was her family, like Maggie Rivera. She's so involved with students. And so she also took a part in putting all the students, I don't know, I just feel like we were a big family, like we were all united.
And
Yeah.
then the other thing that took up your time was you're a member of your sorority. Let's give them a shout out.
Yeah, so I'm a part of the Alpha Sigma Chi. And I joined the sorority my sophomore year. And yeah, I learned a lot from being in that sorority. Amazing friends. Yeah, definitely loved my experience at Oswego.
I love asking this question. Do you still have maybe a text chain or a group that you're still involved with? It's been, oh, okay, so 12 years since you graduated. Do you still have a connection with a certain group of people that you met while you were there?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Like I have connections with my sorority sisters still. And I have connections with a lot of people that I met as well while I was there. And Maggie Rivera, I'm always connected to her. And Mike Pasella as well. And then I did a presentation in 2018. So I went back and I did participate in the Alana program as a keynote speaker to speak to students in 2018.
What's your
And then
favorite, what's your favorite thing to do when you go back?
my favorite, going to the lake and just being by the lake.
The call of the lake.
Peace, yes, the peace, yes.
It never
Mhm.
lets go, huh?
No, no.
I was thinking you were going to say sub shop.
Um, yes, right, because there's no cheeseburger sub anywhere else that I think that's the only place we go and get it.
So you said when you got to Oswego, you knew you were going to be in law. What was the guiding, what had happened in your life prior that you said, law, this is the way I'm going to go?
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to do something that involved helping people. So I was actually inspired by my mother's immigration attorney um, when I was 14. So my parents were actually going through an immigration process, and I have always been my parents' translators. I mean, my father always understood English, but I felt like I was always my mom's translator. She would always take me. So I remember going to her immigration attorney's office, and I was inspired, and I asked him questions, and he said he helped a lot of people. And I'm like, I want to do something like this. And so then that was the moment where I said, I want to go into the law because I know going into the law, I can help a lot of people. Mhm.
Not a lot of people know what that process is like when you say the lawyer inspired you. I'm going to guess this lawyer was in your life for a pretty long time.
Yeah, so my parents' case took about 8 years to finally resolve. So it is sometimes, depending on what types of cases, it can take a long time. But the process that my parents did, it was a long
Is that, and now in your profession, is that
time.
an average amount of time, 8 years?
No, there is some, again, it all depends on the type of case that they have, but yeah. Mhm.
So after Oswego, you had to go to law school. What was that experience like?
So prior to graduating, so I was involved in a lot of things, right? As soon as we go, that I knew that I also wanted to study abroad. Okay. And so because I had to make a decision my senior year, I'm like, I need to either study abroad or else I'm never going to study abroad, or I need to study for the LSAT. So I decided to study abroad, and I didn't take the LSAT. So I actually took a year off, because I couldn't make the deadline because I had to choose one or the other. And I don't regret it because I loved the experience of studying abroad. And had I not done it, I would have never done it. So I did take a year off of not being in school. During my 1 year off, I did work at a law firm to maintain that experience or get experience within that area. And then I applied for law school. And then I got into law school, which is why I'm here in North Carolina, right? I got accepted here at a law school in Charlotte, North Carolina. So then I came here and I stayed.
Oh, your parents must be brokenhearted that you didn't come back to New York. But they're still very much in your life. It was your dad's birthday recently, and you talked about his immigration journey, like we just talked about. You put that story out there on Facebook. I'm wondering, it's a very personal story. Did you have a moment of hesitation to say maybe I shouldn't share this?
No, I think especially under this administration, I think everyone needs to have that motivation, right? My father came here from Mexico, like everyone else, right? Or any other person who wants to come to America, for a better life, right? That's the reason why most of them come. They come here for looking for a better life, right? And so my dad, he was a chef in New York. And so that's what he worked at a restaurant from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I remember him working. Actually, that was my first job that I got at the age of 15 with the work permit, with the that certain hours that we could work as a student. And so So I started working at the restaurant there as well. But I saw my parents work hard. I saw my mom also, she would work after my dad would come home, so they would take turns so that we wouldn't have to stay with like a babysitter or something. Um, so my parents have been an inspiration to me as well.
What was your job at the restaurant? And if you want, give them a shout out.
Initially I was hired as a bus boy. So I was cleaning tables. And then I worked there the summer. So then another summer, then as I got older, I started being the person in the front. So like taking orders over the phone, making coffee, making shakes. So that was my job there.
What did you learn working in a restaurant that you use every day in your current job?
Customer service, absolutely. I think customer service is very important. Um, there's so many different personalities, there's so many different people. And you just have to always be understanding and nice because you don't know what a person is going through, right? So I think customer service is a big thing.
That is amazing to learn at such a young age because you said you were 15 when you started, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So we're moving along in your story, your life story, and you go to law school, get your diploma, you get to practice law, you go to work for some other firms in Charlotte, and then you decide to open your own firm. That's unbelievable that you did this at such a young age. What was the reason? What made you say, I want the name of the firm to be my name?
So I've always wanted to have my own law firm. I just didn't think I was going to be ready so fast. Um, but I felt like I think one of the main reasons is that working for someone else, you realize that they do things differently, and you don't have control over how you want to represent people, right? Or how you basically don't have the control. And so I remember there were some cases where I'm like, I had to get creative. Um, and some cases where I'm like, I wouldn't have taken it, but I got creative with it because I had no choice but to do it. And I was able to win it, which I learned a lot there because I knew that if you if I did the research, like more research or got creative on making arguments, that it can be done. But I like to make sure we have a good case from the very beginning, in order to move forward. But
How,
I think that's where, go ahead.
how do you determine, in your own practice now, how do you determine it, or does it matter to you still whether it's a good case or a winnable case?
Oh, yeah. So I make sure that we meet all the eligibility requirements that are needed. Absolutely. It's important to be able to make sure that you have a strong case. You have to be able to build a strong case from the very beginning, in order to be able to ensure that we have a successful
So
end.
the next question is kind of like a before the time that we're in right now and then after. So before the time that we're in right now, how did it work? Like someone would come to you and say, I really want to apply for citizenship, and it take me through that process before the current administration. Okay. What was it like then?
Um, I'm not gonna say before and after, just because I've always been precautious about all my applications, right? So in order for someone to apply for citizenship, we do have to make sure that they are eligible, right? There's certain things that first, if the person comes and they were not my client previously, right, we have to make sure that that their lawful permanent resident status was obtained in a good way, right? That there was no fraud involved, that that there's no issue going to be when it comes to citizenship, right? Because before a person can become a citizen, they have to be they have to be a lawful permanent resident for a period of either 5 years or 3 years, right? Any time after that, they can file, depending on how they got their green card, right? So people who are married to U.S. citizens can apply at the 3-year mark. So once they completed that 3-year, with their lawful permanent resident status, then they can go ahead and apply for citizenship, so long as they're still married to their U.S. citizen spouse, right? But if they're not married to their U.S. citizen spouse, or if they became a lawful permanent resident through another way, right? Because there's different ways that a person can become a lawful permanent resident, then they do have to wait the 5-year waiting period before they can even apply for citizenship, right? And so first we determine, okay, how'd you get your green card? Is everything good there? There's no issues there, because when you apply for citizenship, they will review everything. They will review like how'd you got your green card, whether the way that whether they issued your green card good, whether it was good or whether it was an error, right? And that's what happens sometimes, that they realize that they issued it in error, and they can take away their lawful permanent resident status at that point as well. So it's very important to ensure everything and analyze everything before submitting the application to citizenship.
And from that point on, you're staying involved, because that process is it's not a quick process.
So the citizenship application is, so that one can take anywhere between 4 months to 6 months, depending on the office, right? Because that's done in a USCIS office locally. So it depends on where the person lives.
And at what point does the test come into play, where you have to take a test and some of these questions regular residents of the United States may not know the answer?
Right. And that's the funny thing. I tell that to a lot of people. I'm like, if you give this test to a US citizen, they're probably not gonna know the answers. But here we are, right? That they have to take the test to make sure that they know the US history, and be able to become US citizens. So that is at the USCIS interview, once they are scheduled for an interview. So they go through their application process, make sure that everything is correct. Again, they go through the history to make sure there's no issues with their lawful permanent resident status, and then they will ask the questions for the civics test. So officers do it differently. Some officers start with civics test, and then they will ask questions about the application, previous history, and then some start with the application and then the civics test.
If they end with the citizenship test and you pass it, do you then become a citizen? Is that the end of the process?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
cool. And then you get sworn in. Okay, after times, we're hearing in the news that people are showing up at offices to check in during the process of applying for citizenship, and then are being taken by ICE and deported. In the cases where you're still a lawyer, how do you find that person and continue their process?
So there's different stages, right? So we have people who don't have status living in the United States, okay? And then you have people who have status. It could be either under humanitarian reasons, right? And then you have people who are in lawful permanent resident status, right? And then you have people who then apply for citizenship. So it's a process, right? Where there's different stages, right? Now, what we hear in the news is people who have either removal proceedings pending, so they're already in court, in immigration court. So there's also different agencies. So there's the immigration court, which is the EOIR, the acronym, the executive. And then we have USCIS, which is like where we file family-based petitions. citizenship applications, humanitarian applications, right? And then there's the other area of immigration, which is like employment-based visas and employment immigration, right? And so there are law firms who do all of those services, and then there are attorneys who just do specific areas of immigration. So I only do family-based, and I do humanitarian-based, so like U visas and T visas, and then citizenship, but anything that has to do with USCIS. Now, what we're hearing on the news is mostly people who are in removal proceedings, meaning that they entered the United States or they overstayed their visa, and now they're in removal proceedings that they have to have their court in front of a judge, right? And so, and a lot of them have applied for asylum, right? Asylum is for people who are afraid of going back to their country, right? Because of certain situations. And so people who are in removal proceedings, whether they have something pending or not with the judge, they have to go to what's called the ICE check-ins, right? And the reason why they do ICE check-ins is because they want to ensure that the person is not going to disappear or the person is not going to escape, right? Because when a person is in removal proceedings, they want to make sure that, okay, we're going to hear your case. We want to see what you're eligible for. But there are people who just don't show up to their immigration court hearing. And so when a person does not show up to their immigration court hearing, then they're issued what's called an in absentia removal order, meaning the judge will enter an order of removal because you didn't show up, right? And then so while people are in removal proceedings, they have to attend these ICE check-ins. And so that's where we have been hearing, right, that some people just get detained depending on certain situations, right? Especially if they committed a crime or there's something else that they see in the system and they detain, right? There's no specific reasoning. Some officers are doing what they want, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, now we are for USCIS. Again, every office in every location is different. Where I'm at, we haven't heard of people getting detained. However, there are some states where we do hear that they are getting detained. But it's honestly right now, I think we're all just like, what are we seeing, right? What I like about us immigration attorneys is that we're all united and we're always like, okay, this is what happened here and this is what we're seeing here. So we're in this together. We're always looking out for each other. We're always trying to see, okay, what is the new practice? Because they change, especially under this administration, things are changing so fast. So it's like, okay, what have we seen? What's going on? And so, we're just very precautious, I guess, right now.
You're in a solo practice. So how do the attorneys get together? Is there an organization that you're a part of?
Yeah, so I'm a part of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So we do have annual conferences every year, and that also helps with our COEs because as attorneys, we do have to have continued education that we are required by the state that we're licensed in. So we do have to have those education courses every so often. Mhm.
Would you say the changing face of immigration is your biggest challenge right now?
Yes, especially now, I feel like a lot of people are afraid of doing anything. It's the news is one big area where is scaring them, right? And then if they haven't had a consultation with an attorney, then they really don't know if they have any options, right? So that's why I always say that a consultation is not just a consultation. A consultation can change a person's life, right? Um, so that's where we're currently at. But we always the thing with immigration is that immigration law always changes. And so it is very important for everyone to know that just because you don't qualify for something now doesn't mean that you won't be eligible for something in the future.
What I loved about your social media is that you speak Spanish on a lot of your posts. And so I'm guessing that your hope is that your information gets shared in your community so that they know that you're approachable lawyer, not, stodgy lawyer. Is that what you're shooting for?
Yes, so I communicate with my clients personally, right? There are law firms that I've heard, right? I've heard that they're they never communicate with their attorney, or it's hard for them to communicate with their attorney. Like the consultation is done with me. Like when you book a consultation, I'm the one you speak to, I'm the one you see. I feel like that personal touch is very important because we're talking about people's lives, right? This is not something they should be confident. They should feel confident when hiring someone, right? Or that they're putting their life in your hands is the way I see it, right? So I think that's very important, and I try to keep that within my.
How often, when people come to see you, are you reminded of your parents' experience?
All the time. I feel like, especially when we get approvals, that they get happy. That is very touching. Um, my my heart is filled whenever we get those approvals. This is an amazing thing.
Never a doubt that you went into the right profession, correct?
Correct. Yes. I've always wanted to be an immigration attorney, like I said, at the age of 14. Um, and the funny part is that when I graduated Oswego, I ended up working at a criminal law firm and personal injury law. Okay, nothing to do with immigration. And then when I was in law school, I was also working for a family law firm. And so when I graduated, I was like, I didn't do anything immigration related, except in law school. In law school, I did do a clinic. It was a immigration pro bono clinic. So I did actually handle it was a U visa adjustment of status case that I did a pro bono. So I did learn something there. But other than that, I had no immigration experience. And so what there I learned that if you do know what you want to do, it's important to do internships. It's important to get a job within what you want, within what you're thinking you want to do, right? So that when you do get out, or when you do when you do graduate, you have some sort of experience, right? Luckily, I started working at a social security law firm, um, and then the attorney there allowed me to start the immigration area in his firm. So I did start it there, but then and I found a lot of mentors again. Within the immigration attorney community, I feel like we're all helping one another. We're always, if we need help with something, we're there, right? We're mentoring each other, to ensure that the outcome that we get is excellent. Um, and so, but I still found it hard because I have no experience as much. So then what I did was I left that firm, and then I went into immigration law. And that's where I learned a lot, until I decided that I wanted to do my own law firm.
You answered the next question as if you knew what it was. It is, any advice for current Oswego students who are thinking about law school or want to be in public service. And I love what you said, but it bears repeating, so go for it.
So say it again.
I said, advice for current students who want to be lawyers. I love what you just said, which is make sure that you get experience in the field that you're looking for.
Yes. So for students who are looking into going to law school, my advice to you is to look into what area of the law you want to go into and intern for that. Even if they don't pay you, go ahead and intern for that, because it's not about the pay, it's about the experience that you get. right? And so I think that's very important because that way, when you're trying to find a job later on, you do have some sort of experience. Or maybe it could be that you think that you want to do immigration law, but then it turns out you don't want to do immigration law and you want to do something else. Then you have that ability to intern at another law firm and see what type of area you like. Now, I've spoken to other attorneys where they didn't ever hear while in school the type of law that they're practicing in now, right? So like me, when I started working at that Social Security law firm, I didn't even know there was Social Security law. Like I was like, what? Yeah, I didn't know this was in the area. But what I love about the law is that there's so many different areas, right? And you can pick the area of law that you want to. And let's say that you want to change the area of practice that you're in, you can change that too. So you won't be bored, right, with your job because you can always add another area of practice, right? You can always add or change. And I think that the ability of being able to change that or learn another type of law is amazing and without having to like change your entire career.
What's interesting is law school, I think I might have assumed offered, I assumed that it was like med school and it offered you a rotation to go into different areas to see which one. I mean, there's a huge difference between a criminal trial lawyer and a Social Security lawyer, but they don't do that in law school, I take it.
No. So law school prepares you for the bar exam. That's what they prepare you so that you can become an attorney, right? Because when you graduate law school, you can't go and say I'm an attorney now. No, you have to take the bar test, and then you once you pass the bar exam, then that's when you can practice law. With you need to have your license in order to practice law. So just having a law degree does not allow you to practice law. So the bar exam has subjects, which is what we learn in law school, right? Usually it's like torts, and real estate. I'm trying to think of the other ones that I contracts, right? So the ones that are the subjects that are tested on the bar exam is what they really focus on. Now they do have classes, but it's not like you're going for a major in immigration. No, like I didn't learn immigration until I got out, right? I only did that immigration clinic, but again, that was one class, right? So how much am I really learning?
That's
You know? Mhm.
that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah. So in reality, everyone learns their area once they get out of law school and they pass the bar exam, and it's practice, right? And I remember someone told me when I started, you just have to throw yourself to the fire, right? Throw yourself to the lions. Because even if you don't know it, you have to do it. You have to try it and do your research and do the best you can. And then that's how you learn. So, and in reality, practicing is what makes you learn.
So we talked a lot of serious stuff, and I have a less serious question finally. I love lawyer shows. Absolutely every lawyer show on TV I'm watching. My dad was a lawyer, so it might have something to do with that.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm going to
Why
ask you.
didn't you go into law?
I didn't have the ability to pass tests that well, and it always scared me. But hey, watching TV shows is a completely different thing than actually practicing law. So,
Absolutely.
the Lincoln Lawyer Suits, Matlock, are there any shows that you watch that you think kind of get it right?
Oh, I used to watch a lot of them. I haven't recently. Um, One of my favorite ones while I was in law school was the How to Get Away with Murder show. Did you
Oh,
ever watch that? I,
yes, yes.
I that was my favorite.
That
That
was
was my
on after Scandal.
yeah.
Yes,
Mhm. That
yes.
was my favorite one that I can remember.
Okay,
Um,
that's the craziest show. There's no way. That does not get it right. That's just entertaining, right?
yeah, that doesn't get it right. That is that. But when you said that, the only show that came into my head was, oh, I used to watch that show. Um, so while I was in law school, we had to watch the Lincoln. And the
Love that
reason
show.
why we had to watch the movie, it was because we were being tested on what the attorney did wrong. And so I remember that we did have to watch that movie and we had to talk about what rules, right? Because as attorneys, we have ethic rules that we need to follow. And so I remember that was from my ethics class, and we needed to speak about what that attorney was doing wrong and
Uh,
everything. Yeah,
ethics. Is that still a thing?
it is. It is very important. Very important.
Well, I know I've taken you away from your practice. We always end with the same question, which is, in your case, it's going to be funny. If you were being handed an Oscar and you wanted to thank the people at Oswego that helped you get where you are today, it could be students, it could be teachers, it could be anyone. Who would you like to thank?
I think everyone, all the students, the faculty, the organizations that I participated in, because they truly built who I am. I've learned a lot of leadership, speaking skills as well. I was actually the vice president of the Asian student organization, and I remember that I had to do presentations. And I remember that I was nervous every time when I would do those presentations. So that helped me a lot with public speaking. Um, and then I was also part of the Caribbean Student Association, but as a dancer for ALANA, right? But that one, the way it challenged me was that I felt like I was shy before, right? I wouldn't put myself out there, but it made me put myself out there. So I think all of the organizations that I was a part of, Alpha Sigma Chi, I was the president for a semester or a year. I don't remember if it was a year or a semester, but I learned a lot of leadership there too, of organizing and being responsible for others, and obviously the student association there as well. I learned a lot. So Mike Pasella, Maggie Rivera, absolutely. She's always been there. She's always been a mentor for me. Um, even after leaving Oswego. And then I was part of the Alumni and Board Association for a period as well. So I just love the community and the support that everybody gives each other, and I think that's very important. I think that motivation, that encouraging each other is very important. I think that students need that, um, especially students who are considered a minority, right? I think that they need to always be encouraged and motivated that you can make your dreams come true if that's what you want.
That's awesome. If students want to reach out to you, do you want to share your socials?
Yes, so you can find me as Sandra Michaca on Facebook, Attorney Sandra Michaca, or Instagram, it's abogada, right? Attorney in Spanish, Sandra Michaca. And you can always Google me at Michaca Law Firm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. And as an Oswego alum, I have to say, I'm so proud of you with all that you're doing, and keep up the good fight.
Thank you.
The Good Fight, that's a TV show.
I'm gonna
That's
have to start looking. I'm gonna have to start looking at these shows now.
Yes, that's a TV show about lawyers.
Yes.
And no one's committing murder, so I recommend that one. All right. And if you would like to reach out with to us with guest ideas, you can find us on Facebook or LinkedIn, or email us at Oswego, no, alumni at oswego.edu. We're always looking for ideas from our over 95,000 alumni. I'm Dee Perkins with the Oswego Alumni Podcast.